Hi. Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for a presentation on UpFor Consulting, our working with startups, small, medium-sized businesses, helping them build powerful, effective, purpose-driven sales teams. That's me. I have some expertise and some experience, and the picture is, that's what I look like. I can't, it's doing the best I can with what I've got, right? This is a better picture. Jay Mafale. Jay is the most wonderful partner you can have in both business and personal. He's amazing communicator. He brings a sense of calm and organization to everybody he deals with. Every single client that we've ever had, at the end of the engagement, they're like, I like Jay better than I like you, and that's perfectly good by me. Before you switch, go back. Jay has a penchant for, you went the wrong direction. Jay and his wife, Miles and Mafale, they are folk singers, and they spend a lot of their time, and they're extraordinarily talented. So please check them out online, and I will send that around to everybody. Yeah. And also, he has this weird compulsion to collect vintage toy robots. You know, before we do this, as I said, Jay's an amazing partner, but what's come up recently, and I think we should just do it now, is 4 years we've been on Zooms together. I've been working with him for 15, 20 years almost now. He's got this problem that I noticed, that he swallows really, really hard on Zoom. It's distracting, and I didn't notice it for 4 years until last week, so I wanted to bring this out now, get it out there, so we can talk about it. I don't know if it's his problem to fix or my problem to fix, and Dr. Smerling, perhaps we can spend some time together working that out.
He's not actually exaggerating. I have now taken to muting my microphone on Zoom if I take a sip of coffee.
It's like a cartoon swallow. I'm not kidding. It's the hardest, like you can't believe it's happening. So I just wanted to get that out there. So we work well together, but that is something that's brewing. All right, let's talk about what we do. I spent a lot of time here talking about what we do, so I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly. First and foremost, we do an assessment of a company's culture. If culture has been so talked about and such a hot topic over the last 20 years, and people are starting to scale back. They say, well, it's not as important, or it's overly highlighted. I couldn't disagree more. If your North Star isn't right, then the project, you might have some success, you might make some money, but as a whole, you're not going to be a great company. So we spend a good amount of time in the beginning assessing the company's purpose and make sure there's alignment with what we do. And if there's not, then they're not a match for us. And I don't care what the dollar amount is. Jay and I are not interested in rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The biggest stumbling block that early stage companies have is hiring their first salesperson. They don't know how to pay for them. Like, I don't have the revenue for it, but I can't get the revenue unless I have more sales, and I need a salesperson. That's a real flashpoint for an organization, and that's something that we work very, very closely with them to identify where their revenue is coming from and how to structure sales plans, comp plans that could work so they can take that very important step. John Mark talked about it, about their audacious goal. If they don't take that leap, they're never going to get there, right? The interview and hire process, this is where a lot of companies, they need help because they don't have the bandwidth. It's not even about money. They don't have the bandwidth. This is an extraordinarily time-consuming process for a small company. And there's there's a selection process where most companies go through. I want to get a lot of candidates, so I've got a big pool, right? Our philosophy is the opposite of that. We want to set up our job responsibilities, our job descriptions in a way that deselects people automatically. So the only applications you get are the handful of ones that already have that same sort of cultural and purpose alignment. Training and strategy and communications, this is the meat and potatoes of what we do. Once we get our hands on salespeople, working really, really closely and granularly with them to drill down real deep on how you communicate with people. Training is often something that people do for a week or two, and then, okay, you're on your own, have fun, and you're in sales, you're supposed to have the gift of gab, and you're supposed to figure it out. That's not how it really works. You're gonna have some modicum of success there, and that's often fool's gold. Oh, it seems to be working, right? It's not a long-term plan to establish a sales team that's going to really exponentially grow your company. Lastly, business development. Anytime we work with anybody, we open up our network. So if we're consulting with a client, we're also going to do everything we can to refer everybody in our business network. So this is an added service that a lot of our clients like. They're like, okay, I'm getting all this great information. I'm understanding better how to run my sales team, start my sales team, and they're going to refer business my way. Ding, ding, ding. How we do this? We do this 3 ways. 1, any company that is worth its salt is organizationally sound. They know how to get things done. It does not matter how eager I am to help if I don't know where to go to get the thing to help you. So we spend a lot of time consulting companies on how to be organizationally sound, understand systems, create processes that are easy to follow, and we pay close attention to detail. Second, we have subject matter expertise. As I mentioned, been doing this for a good long while. We kind of sort of know what we're doing, and we have our methodology and paradigms that we work with. So we're experts in what we do, and this crew right here is a large part of my continued growth of understanding how best to work with organizations, because so much of my master's program revolves around the information I'm learning from my cohort. So special thanks to the 4 of you and everybody else. Lastly, culture. As I mentioned earlier, the culture at UpFor is one of thoughtfulness, diligence, and integrity. We're going to outthink the other guy, we're going to outwork the other guy, and we're going to outclass the other guy. All of these things together make up the UpFor way. There's the toy robots we discussed earlier. Jay insisted. I had no choice whatsoever. How do you implement it? How do you live consistent to this? My good friend David Goldstein says that 90% of business problems are communications problems. So how do you effectively implement these things? It has everything to do with what you say, how you say it, and how often you say it. Collectively, when you do all of these things, you have winning clients. So rather than continue to preach to you and talk to you about how to do this, we use our own methodology to help us land clients ourselves. We're not do as I say, not as I do. Those who can't do teach. We follow our own blueprint to land our own clients. So, see, Jay didn't want to do this. I said we should do it, right? Right? We're not just a member, we're also a client.
So there's no better way to sort of demonstrate how we followed our own advice than to tell you a quick story about how we followed our own advice and won a recent client. So here's what happened. There was, Daryl had reached out to Joe for a referral. So in searching for this referral for Daryl, Joe came across somebody named Katie. Katie was not going to be the person who was going to help Daryl. She was trying to spread the word as well. But in the conversation with Katie, she learned what Joe was doing with UpFor Consulting, and she said, "You should talk to my husband, Hugh. He's starting a company, and he might find what you do kind of useful." And Joe said, "Of course, I would love to speak to your husband, Hugh. Put us together on an email, please, and we'll set something up." So they left the meeting. She got busy. She did not put them together on the email. So Joe, following his own systems and processes, set a reminder for himself in a couple days to reach back out. And he did that. He did this 2 more times, and she hadn't gotten back in touch with Joe yet. After that 3rd time, she finally did reach back out to Joe. She apologized because she'd gotten bogged down with her work. She did put them together on an email, and she actually thanked Joe for being diligent about what he was doing and for staying on top of this. So Joe got a meeting with Hugh. We took that first meeting. We spent, first of all, we kept organized, as Joe was talking about. We agreed to use their online platform for video chatting, even though it's not the one that we typically use. We made sure that we arrived on time and logged in. During that meeting, we spent a lot of time listening, and we learned that what they wanted to do was get funding, acquire 3 small to mid-sized companies, and then put those together. And they said that the key to their ultimate success was going to be making sure that their organic sales were increased by cross-training the salespeople from the different companies to sell each other's products. Same industry, similar companies, but not all selling the same materials. When we left that meeting, everybody had agreed we had a really good meeting and everybody was feeling great about what we were doing. But they had said to us, we like you guys a lot, but we don't have any money, so we can't hire you for anything. We can't pay you. Why don't we reach back out to you when we get our funding and maybe we can go from there. So we could have left it at that, but we didn't. We said, you know what, we've got a little bit of bandwidth. We're really interested in what you guys are doing. It sounds very exciting. We like what you're up to. Is there anything that we can do to help? So what they did was they sent us their pitch deck that they were using to go get funding and asked us if we would review it and give them some feedback, which we did. So already, by the way, this wasn't like, again, we weren't getting paid for this. We weren't looking for any kind of quid pro quo. We just wanted to genuinely help with what they were doing. We reviewed their pitch deck. It was about 30 slides. We used our attention to detail. We were subject matter experts. We used our own presentation skills to look through. Sorry about that, John. I just popped my mic really hard just then. We used our own presentation skills to review their presentation. And we went about everything we were doing with a high level of thoughtfulness, diligence, and integrity. We did find substantive changes that they could use in their presentation. When we went to the next meeting, we pointed that stuff out to them. By the way, these meetings were about every 2 to 3 weeks in cadence. That's what they requested, and we just kind of kept meeting back with them. Even though they didn't have their funding, they didn't have any companies, they couldn't hire us. But we started to show ways that we could add value to what they were doing and genuinely help them. They did institute the changes that we offered. We were even diligent enough to find a typo buried in their 30 pages of slides, which they changed. Throughout these meetings, we were all recognizing that something was building here and something was good. But again, they couldn't use us yet. So we offered to actually take the revised pitch deck and dig into our own network to see if perhaps we could help bring them the funding. If we could connect them with somebody who could offer them the funding that they were looking for. So we did that as well. Fast forward through about 6 months of going through these meetings every couple of weeks, they finally did find their funding. In 2 days, they signed a deal to get the money that they need to purchase these companies. And because we did everything that we have told you guys about today, we were organizationally sound, we showed them our expertise, and we followed our own advice by running through everything with a high level of thoughtfulness, diligence, and integrity. They agreed to a 6-figure engagement with UpFor Consulting. We start working with them next month.
Jay, where's my referral?
Yeah, that's negative 0.05%. What we did was we earned their like and trust. In sales, there's nothing more important than like and trust. People want to work with people that they like, but they must work with people that they trust. We didn't do this falsely. It wasn't salesy. It was genuine interest in what they were doing. We all ended up liking and trusting each other, and that's how we ended up where we were after this amount of time. And hold on, we don't want to, I put a lot of time into this graphic. There it is. Yay.
Oh, it's flashing.
Yay.
I didn't know it was going to flash.
All right, and then Joe is going to take over from here and tell you why we do what we do.
So why we do this is we're trying to contribute to other people's success. That's what motivates us. That's why we're doing what we do. It's why we started the company. When you can make other people feel good, as we did with this client, 6 months worth of making them feel good, to Jay's point, by the time they got the funding, there was no conversation left to have with us. We've already demonstrated all of our value. We showed our expertise. They trusted us. They knew that we went about things with a high degree of thoughtfulness, diligence, and integrity. So by the time they got funding, it was a fait accompli, and so now here we are. So that's the success story, using our own blueprint for success that we give to clients, utilizing it ourselves to our success as a sales organization. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we're a bit over time, but I don't really give a shit about that.
One question anybody has there, Rory.
Yeah. How did it work out where when you realized that the coaching was kind of leading to the business development? You know, because I see that happening a lot. You know, like, can you just explain like how that happened?
Well, for this particular client, or sort of as a general?
Particular client, like.
Yeah, so obviously we always knew that there was this, potential end goal, but the first rule of coaching is the people that you're coaching have to give you permission to be coached. They were receptive to hearing our guidance and advice. These are really, really smart guys, but that doesn't mean that they're smart in this area. They're smart in these 10 areas, but we had more expertise in this area. So they were open to the coaching. So that's first and foremost. If the client's open to the coaching, then they're going to be open to a business agreement, to a partnership. So that really, it starts there. And then once you start demonstrating and adding value, right, we looked at their pitch deck, there was some stuff, right? It was really good, but there was still some stuff, right? It was clear that the way they were presenting the pitch deck, trying to pitch the business, we thought, there's some really good things there, but there's a few things that you could add in there and how you're presenting, right? Our presentation skills, all that kind of stuff. So once they recognize that you've got those pieces, right, then the rest of it just kind of starts to flow like downhill in the river.